What's up, guys? So welcome to my YouTube channel. So this is the lecture about group representation, and in this video and maybe the next 3 videos, we are gonna to talk about so-called the Schur orthogonality, and it has 3 parts. One is the grand orthogonality, and another is row and column orthogonalities. Okay, so it's very complicated. So I copy from these websites so that we will not miss. So for finite group, we will first prove this guy in this video. So this is called the grand Schur orthogonality, and this is very complicated. It's easy to prove but very complicated to use. And after that, we will define a so-called prove this row orthogonality and also this column orthogonality. So actually there are 3 orthogonalities. Okay, and you will basically forms all the important structure in the finite group representation. So this is a very heavy part. If you know about this, then you have a basic understanding of group representation. Okay, so large flow. Remember that given any finite dimensional representation of finite group, then the previous theorem tell me that we can decompose this into the irreducible one. And then we define that given any linear transformation from V1 to V2, and then this lemma show that if they are not the same representation, then this map is 0. Otherwise, there are isomorphism. Moreover, there are just some constant. Okay, so the key tool to prove this grand orthogonality is given H, any linear transformation, that I form this T. I go 1 over G and sum over G and a row to G inverse H and row 1 G inverse. Okay, so claim is that T is G linear. Okay, so to prove this, let me just compute this. So we can just compute this guy, T, and row 1G. Okay, so just H inverse 1 over G summation G and row to G inverse H row 1G. So it's row 1H. Okay, so combine with representation property, that we can get this and row to H inverse G inverse H row 1 GH. Okay, so now using the tool of, so this is just as the same set of G, so it is just G row to G inverse H row 1 G. So this is just T. Okay, so this shows that this is G linear. Okay, so since it's G linear, and if row 1 and row 2 are irreducible, then immediately have the following. Immediately prove that let me just write down. So it's G row 2 G inverse H row 1 G is either lambda times identity, right? For some identity, for some n by n. Okay, so, and this only holds for 2 equals to 1. I should say these 2 are the same representation. Okay, otherwise it's 0. Okay, so for the convenience, so let's say if 2 is different from 1, then this is 0. If 2 is the same as 1, then this is lambda, right? So now I want to compute lambda, so it's very easy. I just compute trace both sides. Okay, for left hand side is G 1 over G, and I take trace of row 2 G inverse H and row 1 G. Now it's 1, right? And this is lambda times n. So this is just trace of H using the cyclic property of trace. So this is just G trace H lambda n. So lambda is just trace H divided by n. Okay, so let me just write the grand orthogonality equation. So it's just 1 over G, G belongs to G, and row I use A because I want to follow this notation, right? So let's say I use A and B to denote the rotation. sorry, that denotes a irreducible representation. So I use, let's say this is, I use A, G inverse H, and I use B, G. Okay, and so these are two different representations. Equals to trace of H equals divided by N and identity. And N I can write down as a dimension of, let's say, row B. And this is not just this, because this equation only holds if A equals to B. So I can write at delta AB. Okay, so this is the grand orthogonality. Now we want to show that this formula is indeed exactly the same as this one. Exactly the same as this one. Okay. So now to do this, so this is a matrix inequality, right? So this is matrix equality, so I can take the component. So I take H to be so-called projector. Okay, I use in quantum mechanics, I can use I1 and J1. Okay, and if you never see about this notation, you can see this is a matrices, which is 1 if, let's say this is Ij. Right? If I is I1 and J is J1, otherwise it's 0. Okay, so I just pick a special matrices where this matrix is only 1 on I1 and J1, and the rest are all zeros. Okay, because this is a linear equation, right? So everything you need is actually this one. Okay, so now I can write it as a matrix. Okay, so now suppose I want to, I'm interested in the, let me just write down. I'm interested in the Ij component. Okay, and this is the same as the right hand side, which Ij component. Right, so if you take identity, the Ij component is just Ij, okay, and delta AB. Now you take trace H, right, and this is, you can see that this is, if I1 is the same as J1, then it's 1, otherwise 0, right? So this term I can write as root delta of I1 J1. So you can see now we have three delta functions. Okay, so let's compute the left hand side. So this is I, maybe let's say, because H is only exist for I1 and J1, right? So this is I1 and a row of BG and J1J. Okay, good. Now fine, yeah. So this indeed finish your proof. Okay. So we just write down this is delta I1 J1 delta Ij delta AB divided by dimension of row of B. And let me just remove this and go here. Okay, so you get row H inverse I1 and J1J. So you can see these terms. This term is non-zero if and only if this term need to be the same as this one, and this term need to be the same, and they are the same representation. So you have, this is why this is called grand orthogonality, because it has 3 deltas. But you may see that, oh, this is still different, right? Because this is G, but I'm using G inverse. Okay, so here comes the final trick. So this is lemma that in a finite group rep, there exists a basis of V such that one can make row G, you take any representation, row AG, to be unitary. Okay, and the proof is very simple, because previously I just showed that always exists group invariant inner products, right? So in this inner product, you can see that this equation is indeed just this, rho G dagger, rho G W V W, right? So this tells me that this is identity. So in that invariant basis, in this the inner product, if you take any orthonormal basis, then this will be identity. Okay, so which means that I can write rho A of G inverse I1 equals to rho A of G, this guy, complex conjugate I1. This is just rho A G complex conjugate I1I. So you can pull it back, you can get it. So you get rho A G I1I. So you get I1I, and you move to rho A G complex conjugate. And I think this indeed prove these orthogonalities. I think there should be complex conjugate maybe here or something. I think so. Yeah. But this is a proof. Okay, so leave a detail for you to check, because it's unitary, right? So let me just call. So it's unitary, meaning that this guy is I1 inverse. So this inverse is become Dagger, right? So it's rho A G Dagger I1, and since it's Dagger, right? So Dagger means that you take complex conjugate and change do the transpose. Okay, this proves the Schur orthogonality. Okay, so this is the grand Schur grand orthogonality. I strong think that this should be is a complex conjugate. Okay, I will check. Okay. So this is the indeed there exists very small here. Okay, so it's the same. Oh, nice. So we prove it. There is this complex conjugate here. Okay, so this is just physics notation, because you can take complex conjugate here or complex conjugate here. This is just exactly the same linear. It is the same. They're basically the same inner products, just different on convention. Okay, so let's prove the grand orthogonality. So I will see you guys next videos.